Welcome to Jesse's Drone Adventures, everybody. We are back in central Arizona, and we are going to be doing some cave exploring today up at the cave 8s here at the top of this mesa. I was up here a couple weeks ago, and I did explore a handful of caves, but today we are back, and we are going to be exploring a lot more. Part of the reason that I'm back is I pulled this place up on Google Earth, and I discovered that there are some ruins or stacked stones on the very top of this mesa, and I have a pretty good idea of where they're at. But first, we got to make it up here.
This location is slowly becoming one of my favorite places to explore because, unlike most of my travel videos where it's all about the views from above, this one is all about the views from ground level, and most importantly, what's on the ground.
These are the caves up here that we'll be doing a little exploring in. I did check these ones out a couple weeks ago, but we'll still pop in and take a look. And the ones that I'm really after are over here, and over here is where those ruins are. But first, we have to make it up there. I just want to say real quick that this is a brand new camera that I've been testing out, so I apologize if the quality is a little wishy-washy, but you know what, the best way to figure out if it works or not is to test it in the wild. So let me know if you like it, and I will tell you the name of the camera at the end of the video. We are getting to that point in the hike already where you can find crap loads of pottery here. Here's some, well, shards of pottery, I should say. Here's a little piece. Really smooth on one side, rough on the other. Oops. I saw some photos online of some hikers that came out here, I think within the last few years, and they took a lot of pictures of pottery that actually had paint on it yet. So that is my goal today, to try to find some pottery with some markings, painting, some symbols on it. Can't really tell if this is sandstone or if it's pottery, but actually now that I've had a chance to view it, I think it's probably just sandstone. Check this one out. Ooh, this is a really good one. Look how smooth that is. Nice and orange on this side and rough on the other side. Fascinating. Before I came out here today, I watched a few YouTube videos on this place, and a couple that was out here, I think sometime within the last maybe 6 months or so, they had mentioned that some of the best pottery is down in these little drainage washes. Like when it rains out here and all the water comes flowing down, you can find the best ones in these washes. So I figured we'd poke around here a little bit before we make our way up the rest of the mesa here. And they were not wrong. Look at this piece right here. Let's see. It's nice and smooth. Oops. Sorry about the camera. Like I said, I'm still kind of getting used to this. That is so fascinating. Put that back.
One can't help but wonder why there are hundreds or maybe even thousands of pieces of pottery all over the place. Is it simply an accident, the result of clumsy people making their way up and down the mesa? Or was this no accident at all and maybe they were destroyed? I'll shed some light on that a little bit later in the video, but before I do, I want to show you the caves and the rest of the surroundings, because on this particular adventure, it wasn't just pottery that I found.
Ah, here we have a cave 8, folks. Spank my ass and call me Harold. We got to go in. We're just going to have to be extremely cautious when we go in because although it's early November and it's starting to cool off, rattlesnakes can still be found lurking around, especially in caves like this. So we're going to be extremely careful and watch where we put our hands and feet. All right, here we go. No turning back now. We start hearing rattles. I'm probably going to jump, hit my head, and then get knocked out. Wow, it is easily like 5 degrees cooler in here. This one doesn't reek of rodent feces like the other cave 8s did. Maybe if I take my backpack off, I can probably squeeze through here a little bit more. There's a little cubby over there. Go away, bugs. You can definitely see how that was carved out because it looks a little bit different from the rest of the cave. And you can see how black the ceiling is here. Probably had countless fires in here to keep warm during the cooler months. And back there, it looks like they probably had, well, it looks like straw to me. I'm not sure if that was from squirrels or mice making nests. I doubt it's been here that long. The thing about coming in these caves is you want to keep your impact on the caves as minimal as possible. Not to mention every little step you kick up dust and that gets in your nose. Ugh. If I lived here over 1,000 years ago, this view would never get old. You have the mountains, you can't see the river, but you can see all the cottonwood trees and they're turning yellow. It is absolutely gorgeous. Kind of don't want to leave here, but we do have a lot more to see. This is just one of many caves that we are going to be going into today. I thought I did see another cavate over here when I flew my drone up here. Oh, there is. This is so much fun. Here's some more pieces of pottery. Wow. This one, I don't think I'll have to crouch too low to get in. You can see the footprints of other hikers that have been up here, probably fairly recently. I didn't even notice this, but it looks like there is another entrance over there. This is so cool. If you would have told me yesterday that I would have been crawling through caves today, I probably would have believed you, but I really didn't have any plans on coming up here because I had another video that I wanted to do, but I still can't go there as of just yet. So this was my backup plan. So this is our plan for the rest of the video. There's a bunch more cavates over here, and those ruins are up there. That's not gonna be an easy hike, but we're gonna do it. But before we go up there, we are gonna go check out this cavate that you see right in the center there, because that one looks so perfect, like very symmetrical. And I bet if we go in there, we might find something cool. We also might not, but that one sticks out to me compared to the other ones. Oofta. Here's a quick look at this cavate. I don't believe I made it up to this one last time I was here because I don't think I had enough time. Look how far back they go. Like from down below, you think it's just like one single cave, but once you get up here and you really start peeking in, there's just room after room after room.
For those of you that watch my channel on the regular, you'll know what these are, who made them, and roughly how old they are. But for anyone who might be tuning in for the first time, I'll give you a quick briefing on what these are. And if you do want to see a more in-depth video on their history, I'll link one of my previous videos down in the description. These are known as cavates, not caves, although I repeatedly call them caves in the video. It's just a habit. They are called cavates because it's a combination of the word cave and excavate. The term was coined by a 19th century explorer named John Wesley Powell to differentiate this type of dwelling from the common cliff dwelling, which were constructed in naturally forming alcoves, like that of Montezuma's castle not that far from here. The cavates were dug out by hand, digging sticks, and sharpened stones, and there are literally hundreds of these along the Verde River. And, in my opinion, I would argue that there might even be thousands. Many of them can be seen from the highway and river, but there are also many more that you cannot see until you get up there. The cavates were created by the Sinagwan people, and they began building them around the year 1050. They began settling in the Verde Valley around the year 650, and before residing in cave dwellings high up on the cliffs and hills, they lived in pit houses. They made these by digging partially into the ground and inserting logs and covering them with a variety of different plant material, similar to what you see in the photo here.
Just took a 15 to 20 minute rest break, had some snacks, had some water, and we're only about, I'd say, 2 minutes away from that really well-defined cavate that I wanted to check out. And here's another one. Some of these you can't even see from the road. It just looks like one giant mountain with no depth to it. But once you get in here, you see there is a lot more than meets the eye. And I bet every single room here served a purpose. Oh, what's this? That looks like a corn cob without the corn. And I bet this one's been here probably since, I forget when the Sinagua left the area. I think it was around the year 13 or 1400. If I'm mistaken, I'll put a caption down below, but I bet this was a cob from way back when, or it could have been from as recent as the 1800s, because I did read on a website that long after the Sinagua left, nomadic people in the area still called these cave-8s home. So I'm going to say 1400s or 1800s. You guys let me know. I'm going to put this down because there's no telling where this has been. Right where we found it. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. When you're exploring these cave-8s, you never know what you're going to find. And I haven't even begun to tell you about the red-haired giants yet, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. Here's another example of the things you don't see from the road. Got another cave-8 here kind of tucked down. But it wouldn't surprise me if some of these were, naturally formed alcoves and not cave-8s. This one, compared to the other ones, just looks so well formed. And it looks like we can even make it up there too. Might be a little bit of a technical climb, but I think we can make it. Wow. We made it. Look how round that is. Sometimes when you're out in nature and you just take the time to look around, you'll see shapes in nature that sometimes almost look too perfect to be naturally formed. And sometimes they are, and other times they are formed by man and women. The cool thing about exploring caves, especially on a day like today where the sun's beaming down on us, if you're getting too hot, a little exhausted, a little warm, you can just pop into these caves and it's easily like 10, 15 degrees cooler. This feels so good. Can you imagine waking up to this view every morning? Especially during the fall when the cottonwoods are nice and yellow, some of those trees are turning orange, you got the mountains there, clear blue sky. This is absolutely amazing. Ooh, wow. Let's go in here and get out of the sun. That way you can actually see it. I've been looking for pictographs or petroglyphs ever since I started coming in these things, and so far I haven't found any. Lots of shoe prints, though. Lots of other people have definitely been in here. Wonder if this wasn't the kids' room right here. Prints here. Some smaller rooms. And I do believe there's another cave-8, another larger one over here. I thought they were connected, but it doesn't look like they were. 1, 2, 3 little cubbies. I always forget the name of these. What are they called? Grinding holes. They use this to pound corn. I would imagine that all of these cave-8s weren't occupied on the regular, and they all served different purposes for rituals, sleeping, your just, recreational, just hangout areas. I am 5'10" without the shoes, And with the shoes, I think it's safe to say I'm roughly 5'11", and I am standing in the middle of this cavate, and I am about 2 inches from my head touching the ceiling. Makes you almost wonder, like most of these cavates, I imagine, and this is just my opinion, I would imagine the Sinagwan people probably weren't big people, and I don't mean that in a condescending manner, but my research led me to believe that they more so lived off the land in terms of like, crops, corn, anything else that they grew and they could make. And they weren't big on the protein. Again, this is just based off of my research. So because they weren't big on the protein, they were kind of, small and leaner individuals, which would make sense why most of these cavates you have to crouch down when you're walking in because you cannot stand straight up.
Fun fact, I actually ran out of water on this hike and I still had to make it all the way to the top of the mesa and check out the ruins. What you didn't see was me hiking all the way back down to the bottom, driving down the street to the nearest convenience store, and loading up on water. I also bought a Diet Coke. Here come the health experts. Realistically, it wasn't that long of a hike back down and up, but I underestimated the technicality of hiking along the edges of the mesa and crawling through the cavates with the sun beaming down on me. After I stocked up on supplies, I ran my happy ass all the way back up there and continued on.
I am getting wrecked today. I'm pretty close to the top, but I saw this other cavate here, and it really stuck out to me. So I wanted to pop my head in for a few seconds here and take a quick look. The distinct feature about this one here is this little doorway to this little cubby. I'm guessing that was probably a granary as well. I'm starting to lose my voice, but I would guess that's a granary. And I was trying to look around here for any other artifacts, maybe even petroglyphs, but I am not seeing anything. Pretty cool stuff, but we got to make it to the top because I think we only have about another hour and a half of sunlight left. And while it's not going to take us that long to get to the top, it's not going to be easy either. So we got to keep it pushing.
I was pretty exhausted once I had made it to the top. This time around, I was not only hiking with a couple bottles of water, my drone, and my camera, but now I had more bottles of water, a Diet Coke, and a couple more snacks. But nonetheless, it felt pretty good to be at the top. And this is where things got even more interesting.
Now, the main ruins are on the other side of this mound here, but just by taking a look at it, I'm sure this was part of it because all of these rocks are arranged in somewhat of a pattern here. Check these ones out. I bet this was a little living quarters because you can see they kind of dug into the ground and they have those stones arranged in a very organized manner over there. The things I would give to be able to travel back in time to see what this looked like.
This part of the mesa was very unique because, unlike the cavates, it looked like they partially dug into the ground and then stacked rocks around the outer perimeter. I had to chuckle at this a little bit because when I was a kid, during the winter months, we used to make snow forts like this on the playground at school during recess. Now, I'll talk more about this next subject in a minute, but my assessment of the site is it was definitely built as a defensive fortress. Like I said, you can barely see some of these caves from the road, and the site that I'm in right now would have provided panoramic views, so if you saw danger coming, such as unwelcome guests, you could quickly alert everyone by running from cave to cave, spreading the word.
All right, I think. Now, back to what I was saying earlier, if there really were such thing as these 8, 9, 10-foot tall giants that roamed the area and wreaked havoc on the Native Americans, this would be the best shelter you could ask for. You can see for miles in every direction. And, if I was, well, I'm 5'10", but if I saw an 8, 9, 10-foot tall person walking somewhere out there, they would definitely stick out like a sore thumb. You would definitely see movement in the desert. Granted, back then, It was a wetter climate and it was more forested out here, a lot more trees. So the climate's changed over the years. But still, if you saw an 8, 9, 10-foot tall creature walking through here, you would definitely pick them out.
The topic of ancient giants roaming the land and wreaking havoc on the Native Americans has always been a subject that's been of huge interest to me, and it all started when one of my viewers told me to look into it. As he stated, a lot of Native Americans in the Southwest went into hiding and started building these elusive defensive fortresses in order to stay hidden from these 8 to 10 foot tall red haired giants that were supposedly cannibals and not friendly. I used to think this was all hogwash until I learned about the incident in Lovelock Cave, Nevada, where multiple groups of Native Americans, primarily the Paiutes, were fed up with these red-haired giants wreaking havoc on their villages, destroying, kidnapping, and eventually eating them. The Paiutes rounded everyone up that they could and cornered these so-called giants into a cave and told them to surrender, and when they did not, a fire was set at the entrance of the cave. A few of these giants that did come out were killed instantly, and the ones that stayed inside were asphyxiated. This story was talked about in a book called Life Among the Paiutes, written by Sarah Winnemucca, daughter of Paiute chief Winnemucca, and supposedly the story has been passed down for 5 generations. According to newspaper articles in the early 1900s, the cave was eventually excavated and they found 45 abnormally large skeletons, measuring anywhere from 7 to 8 feet. Now, I don't have time to go into full detail on the story in the interest of time, but I will talk about this in one of my next videos. I just wanted you to have a basic understanding of what happened and how these next details of what I'm going to tell you may tie everything together. Just pay close attention to the details and similarities. One thing that's always tickled my brain and led me down multiple rabbit holes and kept me up late at night is wondering why they felt the need to go from living in pit houses on ground level to digging out these caves high up on the hills and cliffs. And in fact, there are multiple cultures that went from living in the valleys along the rivers and creeks to literally heading for the hills and cliffs. I visited many of these ancient sites over the past year, many within an hour or two drive of Phoenix. Some of them are massive and hundreds of feet up on mesas, others are hidden and tucked away into large alcoves, some only a couple hundred feet at the top of hills, and others hidden in steep remote canyons that would be a tough trek even for today's most avid hikers. But what they all have in common is they all went from living in the valley lowlands to heading toward higher ground. Archaeologists have made many speculations over the years as to why, but at the end of the day, nobody knows for sure. I'll give you guys my opinion in just a moment, but here's a few striking similarities. These ruins are just outside of Phoenix, Arizona, and it's a fun hike to them if you ever make it out there. But on a nearby interpretive sign, it says the following. For 1,000 years, the Hohokam lived as farmers, craftsmen, and traders throughout southern Arizona. But for some unknown reason around AD 1050, 974 years ago, many of them felt the need to build defensive forts. Now check this out. According to nps.gov, and I'll link this down in the description, the Sinagua were the group of people who lived in the dwellings at Montezuma's Castle and Tuzagut National Monument. Montezuma's Castle is only a few miles away from here, and Tuzagut is about 20 miles away. Although people were living in the area much earlier, the Sinagua began building permanent living structures, the dwellings that you see at the monument, around 1050 CE. The caveates we are exploring today were also built around the same time period. And on that same website, to sum it up, it says there are many possible reasons the Sinagua chose to build their homes in cliffs, whether it be to keep warm in the winter or keep cool in the summer, to be protected from flood damage, or the dwellings may have also been built high up for protection to help the Sinaguan view approaching travelers. But then again, no one knows 100% as to why. We also see the same pattern with the Salado people that lived in Tonto Basin, Arizona, along the Salt River. According to www.ajpl.org, the Salado people who migrated into the Tonto Basin area established settlements at regular intervals along Tonto Creek and Salt River. The Salado lived comfortably in the Tonto Basin Valley along the Salt River for several centuries, irrigating about 2,000 acres of crop fields and supplementing their diet by hunting and gathering native wildlife and plants. Something changed, and for unknown reasons, the Salado went to great lengths to move their settlements away from their only water source and crop fields. Archaeologists are not sure what forced the Salado to move. Perhaps it was for protection from the environment, population growth, or possibly defensive position. Even though there is no archaeological evidence that warfare existed among these cliff dwellers, they moved to higher ground in the natural caves located in the nearby Superstition Mountains and built their magnificent cliff dwellings that remain today. The cliff dwellings that this article referred to are the well-preserved cliff dwellings at Tonto National Monument. The Salado culture lived in Tonto Basin between 1250 CE and 1450 CE. The dwellings were constructed around 1300 CE. Once again, we see the similar pattern of living on the ground near the river to heading to the cliffs and constructing dwellings. Now, granted that this happened in this culture a little later than the previous two, it's still close enough in the time frame. And just like the previous two cultures, no one knows 100% as to why, but there are so many similarities amongst these cultures. I'll give you my 2 cents on this a little later in the video, but let's get back to the hike.
Here's a look at some of the pottery on the ground here. More and more of it. This one is extremely smooth and well defined. There was a really large, yeah, here it is. This is a pretty large piece here. Look how big that is. Judging by the shape, I would say this is the outside, and this is the inside.
It goes without saying, I found dozens of pottery shards on this trek, from the bottom and all the way to the top. But that still begs the question, why are there so many? I doubt it was the result of people being clumsy because that behavior would have been corrected promptly. But a theory I found online was that after a piece of pottery served its purpose, or when they decided to move on and abandon their homes, they would destroy them and leave the pieces on the ground, as a way of returning it back to the earth where it all originally came from. I could get behind that theory. It also wouldn't surprise me if this was the result of vandals, looters, and explorers that started coming into the region once they left. I also wouldn't be surprised if it was partially the result of these so called ancient giants. As I've said before, they were not friendly people, and they loved to kill, eat, and destroy. There is also one giant detail, no pun intended, that ties all of this together and supports my theory of these ancient giants being active in the area. And that's probably why the Native Americans sought refuge in the cliffs, canyons, and at the top of mesas. We will revisit this topic in just a second, but if you do have any idea as to why there would be this many pottery shards left behind, please let me know down in the comment section. I would love to read them.
Now those ruins that I saw on my drone, I do believe are right over there. Here we go. Now we're talking. Well, we finally made it to the stone ruins here. That looks like it was definitely dug in a little bit, maybe a couple feet. I might have to get my drone out because I feel like the drone would give you a better perspective of what I'm standing in.
As I was getting a better view of these ruins with my drone, I noticed some more just beneath the ledge I was standing on. And these ones were so unique because if you look at them carefully, you can see that there were more caveates underneath the ledge, and the rocks were stacked around the perimeter of the caveates, almost as if to put up a barrier between any unwelcome visitors and the entrance to the caveates. This was definitely done with design in mind. Now, I didn't have enough time to go in them and see what's inside because the sun was setting pretty fast, and I wanted to be able to hike back down with a little light left. But I am definitely coming back again and going inside.
While I was flying my drone around, I noticed another little cavate there that was just barely visible, and it looked like there were a bunch of rocks put around it to sort of hide it. So we're gonna check that one out. Just when you think you've seen it all, you haven't seen Jack. Here we go. Yeah, this is the one. This is definitely what I was looking for. If you were really trying to evade 8-9 foot tall giants that were cannibals, I mean, this would be a great place to do it. You can see in almost every direction, and when they're coming up here, if they did, they wouldn't be able to see this. You can't see these smaller cavates from the road. You can only see them from a drone or from, if you're lucky enough, Google Earth. But obviously, they didn't have Google Earth or drones back then. But yeah, you would be able to see some of the bigger ones on the top, but these ones that kind of go like in, like at an angle, there is no way you'd be able to tell they were there. And for those of you that don't know, many of the national monuments in Arizona, and I'm assuming in Utah, Colorado, and New Mexico, a lot of them have been rehabilitated so that way, you know, they can kind of show people what they looked like or what they think they looked like back in the day. And they've done that to help preserve them and make them last longer. Some people like it, some people think it's cool, some people don't because they think they should be left in, you know, their original state as much as they can be. I have mixed views on it. I mean, you know, if you don't do maintenance, they're just going to get worse, worse, and worse. And then over time, people aren't even going to know what they were. So I'm for it a little bit. But I mean, at the end of the day, I guess I can see both sides, is what I'm saying. This is probably going to be the last cavate of the day that we're going to fully explore. So I figure, why not go all out? And actually, check this out. This is so cool. We have I don't know if you can see it the well with that light, but we have a piece of cob here. It's probably been there for hundreds and hundreds of years. I'm gonna see if I can sneak in this cave a little bit and get a better look. How cool is this? We are in it now. This is something. And this is one of the less smellier cavates that I've been in. This one doesn't smell like rodent feces at all. There's another room over there. And there's some other little cubbies over here that were dug out. Look how symmetrical this one is. I mean, they did this over 1,000 years ago with their hands, rocks, sticks, whatever they could use to dig these out. And some of those are almost perfect. It's almost like they had advanced tools to do this, but that might be a little bit of a stretch. But who knows? I'm trying to find more pieces of cob, but I'm not seeing anything. No Clovis points, no tools, no grinding holes. Every once in a while when you're in these things and you start to have realization that they could collapse at any moment, that would suck. But it does give you a really good appreciation for being able to come in here and see how the ancients lived hundreds and hundreds of years ago. I think we'll be okay. As long as we don't damage it. Look at that. Piece of cob from probably 7, 8, 900 years ago, maybe even before that. I don't think it's that old. But then again, your guess is as good as mine. And like I said before, there were nomadic people living in these cavates around the 17 and 1800s. So they might just be only a couple hundred years old. But the fact that they've lasted this long is pretty impressive. We're going to put it right back where we got it. The more I think about the red-haired giants theory, and then coming out here and seeing all this, the more I start to believe it, because these cavates, at least on this side, they have these stone walls that surround them. So if I was trying to get up here and wreak havoc, before I could get into the caveates, I would have to get over the stone walls. In a lot of places that I visited, a lot of archaeologists had said that, these stone walls might only be 2, 3, 4 feet high, but back in the day, they were probably a lot higher. So if someone was trying to come up this mesa to do terrible things, well, for one, you could throw stones at them, and there's like unlimited ammo up here. But even if they made it up here, they would have to hop over the walls to get into the caveates. So my opinion is this is definitely a defense ruin. My opinion, but I hold to it.
A few minutes ago, I had mentioned that there was one giant detail that ties everything together. And before I reveal that, I want to hear from you. Do you think it's possible that there was a race of giants that inhabited the Southwest hundreds of years ago? I mean, what are the odds that all of these civilizations share similar events, such as living on the ground and then residing in the walls of cliffs, canyons, and on top of mesas? Is this all just a coincidence? And on top of that, all of this happened roughly around the same time period. Why did they all feel the need to head to higher ground? And if they were being preyed upon by a race of giants, why isn't this bigger news? Well, that one I can't answer, but what I can tell you is this. I did find an old. Oh, and by the way, real quick, the new camera that I'm using on this channel is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, and I will link that camera along with all the other gear that I use, including drones, down in the description. Now here's what ties things together. This is a newspaper clipping that I found online that talks about a rancher named Peter Marks who uncovered a skeleton of monstrous size on his ranch near Prescott, Arizona. Now, I know what you're thinking. This newspaper article could be fake, and it could have been created by anybody with a half a brain that knows how to use ChatGPT, which is true. So I dug a little deeper, and I found the original newspaper, which is from the Arizona Republican, Monday morning, July 24th, 1911. And if you still have any doubts, the Arizona Republican began publishing in 1890, according to azcentral.com. And I will link that newspaper article down in the description. But it goes on to say that the rancher found these skeletons of monstrous size by accident when floodwaters passing through his farm ended up cutting a ditch and exposing several bones. In the newspaper, he stated the following: "The skull is of such abnormal size that if the average man of this day places it over his head, he still could find room to move it backwards and forwards or up and down with ease." The next quote: "From measurements taken of this skull, a number 10 hat would be required to fit it." To give you some perspective on a number 10 hat, according to Google, it is an exceptionally large size. The average male head around is 23.3 inches, and a number 10 hat would fit the head of a person measuring 31.5 inches around. That would be freaking huge. The teeth, several of which are still embedded in the jawbone, substantiate the immense size of the head. They are fully one-third larger than those of men today and present more the appearance of tusks than of molars of the human family. The thigh and lower limbs also indicate at least twice the size of the average man today. Now, this giant skeleton was found near the town of Prescott, Arizona, some 40 miles away from where I am in this video. But I did find another newspaper article that talked about skeletons of giant race being found near Sycamore Creek. Now, I will be 100% honest with you. I am still trying to track down the origins of this newspaper clipping so I can verify its authenticity. But if this is true, which I believe it to be, here is two really important details. Number one, Sycamore Creek is only 27 miles away from where I am in this video. And number two, the article said that these were found on Sycamore Creek, where the grade of the Verde Railway passes through, which is in an area that I may have already visited, and I might be making a video on that in the very near future. Now, to add to that, about 5 miles away from where those skeletons were found, there are even more cliff dwellings, which I featured in a recent video. Now, you can call me crazy if you want, but I hypothesize that both of these cultures were trying to settle along the Verde River, and the Sinagwan people took to the hills, cliffs, and canyon walls to avoid this chaotic group of giants that wreaked havoc on them. But what do you guys think? Do you think there was once a race of giants that roamed the Southwest and were feeding on the natives? And let me know down in the comments if you want me to cover more on this subject. And if you do want to see more desert exploration videos just like this one, click that playlist in the upper left hand corner to continue the fun.